Okay, well, welcome everyone to another one of our Community Voice webinars. Today we'll be featuring Headstart California and Kidango, kind of reviewing Kidango's ladder of engagement and leadership in connecting, educating, and activating families for social change. And all of our Community Voice webinars were very exciting and important. But this one specifically is going to be talking about legislative advocacy and mobilizing families. So it's definitely great timing as we are getting ready for our regional policy forums coming up. So like I said, we'll record this and send it out as a resource as well. But yeah, we're just going to dive right in. And if you'd like to put your name and organization in the chat, that'd be great. So folks could kind of cross collaborate if you find someone on there that's kind of sharing the same information or have questions. So Michael Williams may or may not be joining us today. I know he's kind of covering for some of our other staff that might be out. But I'm sure many of you, well, actually, I think all of you know who he is. He's our policy director. And I'm Victoria Hartman, the CFRA program manager. And Sadie, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Sadie Crow, and I'm a part of CFRA program support.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to dive right in here. So we did our welcome and introductions. And we'll do a couple of overview slides, and then we'll just hand it right off to Headstart and Kidango. And we'll have questions and answers for them, and then we'll have some discussion groups, or well, I think since we're kind of a small group today, it'll just be the one overall discussion group, and then some final reminders and closing. So as we typically review in our presentations, this is our CFRA mission. It's a strong, cohesive network that promotes success and well-being of families in all California communities. And our mission is to connect FRCs, networks, allied organizations in a member-driven statewide network, which, that's kind of our big goals right now are around legislative advocacy and mobilizing our statewide network. We also convene family strengthening leaders for networking toward a shared vision. And in this case, it is around elevating community voice and peer sharing and best practice sharing. And then communicating the value of FRC's networks and programs that strengthen families to policymakers and to the state. And so elevating community voice is a big piece to communicating the value of FRCs. We did have a presentation a couple weeks ago about shared leadership from Raising the Future that really highlighted that, which again is recorded, so we'll certainly be sending that out. But this is kind of how the Community Voice webinar series aligns with our vision and mission. Okay, and then I will hand it off to Anna and Meva.
All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. My name is Anna. I'm the Director of Government Affairs with Headstart California. And to start off, I'm just going to explain a little bit about Headstart in general, the children and families we serve in California, and the Headstart requirements for family engagement. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, and everyone can see that? Perfect. All right, so talking about family engagement and Headstart programs. As I said, I'm with Headstart California. We're an association that represents Headstart agencies across the state. There's approximately 145 programs in California that offer Headstart. And Headstart when I say Headstart, I'm talking about the full range of our programs. So that can be Headstart, which serves children ages 0 to 5, though normally ages 3 and 4 here in California due to kindergarten. Early Headstart, which serves 0 to 2, and then 2 special programs, Migrant Headstart, which serves children whose families are involved in agriculture and moving from place to place following the harvest. That can be both Headstart and Early Headstart, and then Tribal Headstart, which is administered through our tribal partners. We serve approximately 100,000 children a year and employ about 24,000 staff. Headstart was designed as a poverty alleviation program. We're often thought of as just a preschool program, but we actually do a lot more, and it was really designed as a health program. The goal was to help vulnerable children enter kindergarten healthy and ready to learn. And to be eligible for Head Start, a family has to be below the federal poverty level. The federal poverty level is very low, in particular in California. It's about $28,000 for a family of 4 this year. So families who are living in very significant poverty. We also have categorical eligibility for children who are involved in the child welfare system, for foster children, for homeless families, and for public aid recipients. And the public aid that makes you eligible for Head Start is either SSI, TANF, which I think is usually CalWORKs in California, or food stamps or SNAP. Those are the programs that make a person eligible for Head Start. The services that we provide, like I said, in addition to early learning, which is what we're best known for, we provide health services. So that's both connections and direct services, either by people that are employed by the program or by consultants or contractors that we bring in. We offer actually in some programs direct services for medical. That could be child screenings, that could be immunization, dental services, both cleanings, checkups, and actual some services, and then behavioral and immunization services. So really a holistic range of health services. We offer family support services to help stabilize the family. That could be a very wide range of services, but some things would be connecting families to supportive services for which they are eligible, such as WIC or food stamps. It could be connections to mental health. It could be connections to housing. It could be connections to addiction services, kind of whatever that family needs to stabilize, to make sure it's a healthy place for the kid to be. And then we are required to provide parent and family engagement. That is what we're going to be talking about today. There's also additional services that are provided to families with disabled children, and we do serve pregnant women. So the family engagement requirements in a Head Start program, and on the right, you'll see a Kaiming, which is one of our programs in San Francisco. So a program needs to recognize that the parents are the child's primary teachers and engage the parents in children's learning and development, develop relationships and encourage communication between parents and staff, collaborate with families to identify family interests, strengths, goals, and needs, conduct family engagement in the family's preferred language, implement procedures for families and staff to share information, and include parent representatives on the governing policy council and form a parent committee. So this last one in particular, I think, is one of the things that makes Head Start really unique. And that's been a program requirement since the beginning, to really include the parents as active participants in the governance of the organization and program that's offering Head Start. So when we say policy councils, what that means, the governing policy council, each Head Start agency must establish and maintain a policy council that is in charge of governing that program. So they do the legal and fiscal responsibility, program development, making sure that the program complies with state and local laws, review and improve procedures. That could be things for hiring, for discipline, for enrollment, for eligibility, though those are somewhat governed, but to the extent that there's local control over that. Head Start requires that parents of currently enrolled children must be represented on the policy council. So again, this is one of the things that we think makes Head Start somewhat of a unique program and also such a successful program, is from the very beginning, these parents coming from these very disadvantaged families are given a seat at the table, making the act. This isn't like an advisory council. They're actually the ones who are implementing these decisions. And then the council must cover the expenses for low-income council members to make sure that parents are able to participate. In addition to the policy council, they're required to set up a parent committee. The parent committee must be comprised exclusively of parents of currently enrolled children as early in the program years as possible. If they have multiple programs, for example, a Head Start program and an early Head Start program, you have to have a representative from each program. And that is an advisory council. So they advise the staff in developing and implementing program policies. So some examples of something that the parents might be involved with giving input on is hours of operation. What days is the program closed? Now that there is some more flexibility around COVID rules, though the federal rules are stricter than the state rules. Now that there's some flexibility around that, that's something that you really be wanting to reach out to your parent council to see what their preference is. Communicate with the policy council and the policy committee, and participate in the recruitment and screening of Head Start and early Head Start employees. So they're very much actively involved in making sure that parents are involved in who takes care of their kids all day. This is also one of the really great things about Head Start is it's actually very frequent for people who start out as Head Start parents to become Head Start employees, to become Head Start assistant teachers and teachers. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to one of our Head Start programs. Kidango is a program that operates in the Bay Area, and Maeva can talk about their family engagement program, which is really, I think, one of the most impressive programs that we have in the state. It's really a model program. If anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me, and I know we'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maeva Mark, and I am the Vice President of Advocacy and Policy at Kidango. Before I share a little bit about Kidango, I would like to share a little bit about myself. I have been a teacher, a K to 12 teacher. I've been a preschool teacher, and I've also been a family, friend, and neighbor provider. And so I've been working with children and families for over 15 years now. And it wasn't until my experience in the K-12 sector where I saw a great need specifically for my kindergartners who couldn't even recognize their letters or letter sounds and were really far behind. And that's something that I definitely value when it comes to making sure that children are ready to enter K-12 and are ready to thrive in kindergarten and in life, which is also the mission of Kidango. So let me tell you about my job. And I will do that first by sharing my screen with you. And please let me know if you can see everything. Great, thank you for the head nods. So Kidango is an early learning nonprofit that's committing to setting every child on a path to thrive in kindergarten and in life. And we are a Head Start agency. However, we also operate general child care, state preschool, and we have a family child care home and education network with 72 providers that are part of our network. And so we serve over 4,000 families throughout the Bay Area, primarily in Alameda County, Contra Costa County, and Santa Clara County. The unique thing that I really appreciate about my job is that we have the direct service, which is our practice, and we also have a research department and an advocacy department. And so we really pride ourselves in looking at the best practices that we've experienced and seen what works and what doesn't work to really help us elevate the various policies policy opportunities that can help to keep our system growing and keep our system improving to meet the needs of children and families and the ECE workforce. And so today I really wanted to talk to you about our ladder of engagement, which is really about connecting with families, educating families, and activating them into a role that has to do with civic engagement, right? And so we really believe in empowering human potential, not just with what we do with the children, but all those who serve or who protect and love and care for our children. And so really what is at the heart of our leadership and engagement for families is one, transformational relationships, and also making sure that families know that their voices are heard. And so when it comes to connecting with families, we do this on a variety of opportunities. And I'm going to share this from my own lens, where the beginning of my conversation with families always starts at an enrollment day. Many of you have had your enrollment days, as you work with families and see if they qualify. And I have spent a whole 12 hours from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, connecting with families who want and need care. And this gives me an opportunity to talk to families to see why this is such a priority for them and why they chose to apply to Kidango, why they want to be part of a Head Start program, to really truly understand their needs and what they value as parents. We also provide a parent orientation throughout all of our programs so that families can have a better understanding of the curriculum that we use, and so that they can also learn about the various activities and parent engagement that they can get involved with. And also learn about the different departments that can support them throughout our organization. We also host parent cafes, and parent cafes actually came out of parents providing us feedback that they want parent engagement activities that allows them to engage with each other. And so we started parent cafes. Our Head Start programs, they host their parent cafes in the evening, right before, for about 30 minutes or so before they go into their other meetings that help families learn more about pedestrian safety, nutrition, and health. And each of their programming has a different topic each time that they have their meetings, but they're incorporating the parent cafe aspect to it. For the rest of our programs, we are doing parent cafes, or when I say rest of our programs, our non-Head Start programs, we're doing parent cafes in the morning when parents are dropping off their kids. We're greeting them with coffee and donuts and, just seeing how their day is going. And also it's happening during pickup time. We know it's really hard to get parents into a space all the time, but we find them when they come to campus, right? And then we also host family engagement fairs. And those family engagement fairs are opportunities for families to learn about the various resources that they have in their community. We partner with community organizations who support families. And so we have those events so that families can have time to have fun and also get some resources for their families. And so these are different ways that we're able to connect, make those connections and build relationship and get families really connected with the work that we're doing. When it comes to education, the Advocacy and Policy Department at Kidango, their goal is really to make sure that parents understand the local, state, and federal issues that impact them in their community, and that they have an opportunity to provide feedback and help improve our systems. And so during these parent advocacy corners, they're usually held throughout the year based on what's happening. And what we have done, we've also based it off of California's legislative and budget calendar, so that parents can learn about what was in the state budget or what was announced, when it comes to what's happening on a federal level, even what's happening on a local level. I know last year we talked about, I think it was Measure C in Alameda County. And so we help families to learn about what's happening in their community and also show them how they can get involved to make their voices heard. So our parent advocacy corners, the topics range based on what's happening within each community that we serve. And then we also make that an opportunity to share Kidango's own policy priorities so that families can provide us feedback on that. And then we go into focus groups. Focus groups are where we are able to really deep dive with families who are interested. And so we let families know of those opportunities during our parent advocacy corners, and families who are really interested, they get involved, and, they come and spend some time with us to really look at, for example, when the California for All Kids master plan came out, we had a focus group on that to look at what it means and what it meant for families, and, wanting to get our families' reflections on it. And so we did a focus group on that. We also have opportunities to help our families gain leadership skills. We utilize the program Abriendo Puertas, Opening Doors, which is a 10-week session that was created specifically for parents by parents of children 0 to 5. And that program really goes into helping parents see themselves as their child's first teacher, and really going into early learning, early literacy, early math, social emotional health, and preparing for kindergarten, and also knowing how to advocate for their children. And so we provide, our Head Start programs provides that for our families, and we also, our advocacy team provides that program for our non-Head Start classrooms. And then the next step to that is for families who have participated in the Abriendo Puertas, there's a session that talks about advocating for your child. Then we invite them to participate in our advocacy leadership cohort to deepen their advocacy skills, to go from advocating from your child to advocating for your community for systemic change. And so that advocacy leadership cohort is also another 10-week session that really goes into helping families understand the legislative process and the budget process. They get to identify and how to find out who their elected officials are, how to contact their elected officials, how to schedule a meeting with their elected officials, and how to prepare for a meeting with their elected official. And my favorite part of the advocacy leadership cohort is really about sharing your story for impact. And one of the things I love sharing with families is that all you have to remember are the 4 Ps. And those 4 Ps is power, knowing that you are powerful and that your story, your experience is powerful. And also knowing the policy, what's going on. And so in the cohort, we learn about the different policies. We learn how to go into the California Ledge website to see what policies are there, and how to read policy and to see who's supporting it, who's not supporting it. And then also another P is the people. Who are the people that we need to contact? So again, they're elected officials. And in this session, they learn that it's not just the elected officials, but also specific staff members from different departments that deal with those particular issues. So it's really deepening their skills, and then it helps them understand where they fit in the last P, process. Where do you fit in as a parent in your community in this legislative process? And so it's a really great program. Our parents are actually provided a stipend to be a part of this program because it does take a lot of their time. And they also, at the end of this program, there's a culminative event that we do, which is an advocacy day in Sacramento, which is how we go into our activating our families. And so we believe and know that the closest people to the problems have the solution. And that's why parents, teachers, and providers should be at the table where decisions are being made. And we try our best to make sure that they have an opportunity to be at those tables. And so as Anna mentioned, that throughout Head Start, they have to have a parent policy council, right? And so at Kidango, we do that in a way because we have both Head Start and non-Head Start programs. We activate our families by also having a parent advisory committee who for all of our centers to be a part of the parent policy council, but they are part of the parent advisory committee to provide feedback. So then when it's time for parents to vote on what happens throughout Kidango as a whole, parents have the opportunity to be heard. We also schedule meetings at our centers, and families get to tour with their elected officials, show them the center that their child goes to, and share about their experience and what they like about a program, a childcare program, and what they would like to see done for childcare. And then again, as I mentioned, we also provide an opportunity for families to go to Sacramento and meet with their elected officials, which has this past year, we did it with Head Start Association and a group of Head Start programs throughout the state. And it was a great time. As you can see in the photo, we have 2 parents. Well, actually, all 3 of them are parents. And I think the proudest thing that I can say is that when we think about this ladder of engagement, when we connect with families and we educate them and we activate them to make their voices heard, you never know where that can take them. And I'm going to give the example of one of our parents who started as a Head Start parent and is now in a governor appointed seat at the table on California's Early Learning Planning Council. I'm sorry, not Planning Council, Policy Council. And so that is the purpose of our family engagement and empowerment, making sure that parents and teachers and providers are in those seats, helping to make the decisions to improve our systems and making our systems more equitable. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Again, my name is Maeva Mark, and my contact information is there.
I'm muted.
I know.
I was saying thank you so much, Maeva and Anna, for your presentations. As we mentioned earlier, this is very relevant to our current legislative advocacy efforts, where really we're wanting to get some ideas together around how to mobilize families and parents more in our legislative advocacy efforts. Something we recognized in our last year in the budget cycle and kind of trying to push for the 25 million, which we ended up not getting. Something that was missing was more of that parent voice in our legislative advocacy efforts. So this is definitely a great example to learn from. Does anyone have any questions about the presentations or the frameworks that were presented?
No, this is Lawanda from Child Care Resource Center. Thank you, Maeva and Anna. We are definitely thinking about doing something very similar and really raising the voice and consciousness of our parents and having them shape their own policies, learn about it in a similar fashion, Maeva, that you shared. And it's just exciting to see that Head Start, I've always known Head Start had the model for it because it was birthed that way from the start. So what a beautiful, beautiful way to illustrate that. So I just want to say thank you, actually. And it's given me more ideas. I actually already built out our whole parent sort of outline, but this was very helpful. So I may even rethink a few areas because of today's presentation. And then thinking, Victoria, with me joining the public policy of CFRA, maybe how some of those voices could, when and if they're ready, be prepared to share their stories as part of their impact. And just transparency, I was a subsidized mom, was a preschool teacher like Maiva, an administrator. So when you've been in all sides of it, you see how important it is. And if I had known about this when I was a subsidized parent with 5 children, this would have been everything I was looking for voice. So thank you.
Also, I want to say with Children's Bureau, my name's Adam. I just really appreciated you coming us, and it was really inspiring to see that. We're also really looking to kind of, we're at the point where we're trying to figure out like what should advocacy be, what should we be doing in our organization, and that just provided some really great ideas, and so happy to have been here for that. So thank you very much, and thank you, Victoria and CFRA, for putting this on. It is exactly what our membership needs to hear more of. So thank you.
I'd like to add, I'm a little embarrassed. I have over 20 years experience in Head Start, migrant Head Start, in parent engagement. And it's like, why am I forgetting this incredible model that is out there to help us set up our parent voice here in San Luis Obispo County? So thank you for that wonderful, wonderful reminder. And my heart always belongs to Head Start. So thank you that this program keeps going forward as it does.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate hearing from you and that you found this very helpful. I do want to put one thing out there. I didn't put it on my slide, but it's more of like my strategy as part of our advocacy and policy work. We have a lot of new legislators this year. And so I encourage you to invite your legislator for a meet and greet at your center to see what it looks like, and to just celebrate, just to congratulate them. And I think that's a great way to, one, get their attention, and also an opportunity for them to meet your staff and your parents there and get families engaged with their elected official.
I just want to second that, not only for the state legislature, which I think a third of it is turning over. Like, we've got an incredible new number of members. So come after the election in November, but until December, they get elected in November, but they're not seated until January. So you've got a prime time when they are not in office yet, but they're going to be in office. And I personally plan on like coffee. So that is a great moment to get someone before they get super busy. And you're going to be one of the first people they see. And like, that's important as they're hearing, because, they're going to be brand new and most of them are not coming from the childcare or children's issues background. So just really letting them know, hey, this is your district now, like these are your people, these are your programs. And I would encourage, from the Head Start perspective, anyone who has Head Start programs, Congress is on recess until September 12th. So it's getting close, but they're in recess until September 12th. Then they go back for like 2 weeks to try to hash out an appropriations bill. Then they come back in October. So they are physically in California now. They're in California for 2 more weeks. They will be in California in October. So if you have a Head Start program, I would also really recommend the same thing. These next couple of weeks and then in October are really good times to try to get your congressional representatives out to your center, see if they'll do a visit, see if you can tell them. And again, for Congress, that's very important because they're working on appropriations, which is the federal budget bill. They're working on that like right now. So it's a very good time for them to see what Head Start does. If any of you have Head Start programs, see what Head Start, and I know a few of you do, see what Head Start does and how it serves the families in their district.
I love the encouragement for legislative visits. That's something we've been constantly bringing up to our CFRA members over the last for a while. But, we're going to be having our regional policy forum starting next week. And that's going to be one of the really big goals of the regional policy forums, is helping folks get more comfortable with scheduling those legislative visits. And for the reasons we just shared, getting them sooner rather than later in there, especially with our new legislators that are coming in. And for right now, our legislative advocacy efforts are going towards our budget proposal for the next year, and the goal is to get it into the governor's budget in January. We don't quite have the next draft of the budget proposal yet. We're hoping to have that in the next couple of weeks, but that doesn't mean that you can't still meet with your legislators just to talk about the importance of FRCs, and the impact that you have with the funding. So definitely very much relevant to our upcoming work. And I think there was a question in the chat here about the, did you adopt parent curriculum for the 10-week family cohort?
So for our Abuendo Puertas opening doors, we use a specific curriculum from Abuendo Puertas, the organization themselves, which is an evidence-based curriculum that you have to be certified in to facilitate. And regarding our advocacy leadership cohort, it is a curriculum that I developed for our families, just based on learning what families wanted to learn about and our staff wanted to learn about.
Okay, that good, because I'm designing something similar, so that's good to hear.
Mhm.
When I was with the Alameda County's Planning Council, we tried to adopt a curriculum for parent advocacy or parents as leaders, and we got close to something. It wasn't quite yet what we were looking for at that was about 5 or 6 years ago, but so that's good, because that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'll just keep planning away. Okay, thank you.
And regarding visits, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. This is from the National Head Start Association, so it's focused on Congress, but it's a toolkit for setting up a legislative visit. So this is focused on Congress, but I think this information could very easily be repurposed, and it's got a draft agenda and everything that you could very easily repurpose for a state visit or even for a local visit. Don't forget your county board of supervisors and your city councils. A lot of funding for childcare actually comes, for example, the city and county of San Francisco actually funds a universal preschool program through the mixed delivery system. So depending on where you are, your city and or county may also be really key partners. And I feel like county board of supervisors is just the level of government that has the most power, that no one actually knows what they do. So also good things. But so I'm going to drop this in the chat. Again, it's federally focused, but I think the information kind of translates all the way down to any level. So if that's helpful for folks.
Yeah, that would be great to share with our regional policy forums coming up. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our presenters today? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. It was extremely valuable to us, especially in the work that we're doing right now. I'm sure you're going to get lots of emails, especially after people see the recording, to hear more about your work. So this has been a great, we were expecting greatness, and then you kind of are over our expectations here, because it's very, very relevant. So thank you so much for your presentation. Let me share my screen here for some of our discussion questions. Okay. So the first question we have on here, since the presentations were so relevant, is how will you use this information in upcoming legislative advocacy efforts? So what are you all doing to mobilize families and elevate community voice in your legislative advocacy efforts? Or what are some ideas that you feel would be applicable to your organization?
I'll just share again, if we're doing whole group, I'm just interested in really, I'm trying to write the balance of not leading parents and like in our own, like, oh, these are our priorities for CCRC or for our EC coalition. And we think parents, you should take this up. I am so curious about what is truly on their hearts, what's really, coming up for them. So trying to design something so that we get authentic voice and not ones that are even, there's something that is known in the world of research, we call it bracketing. But how do I bracket my own agenda or wants or desires to make sure in my facilitation of their learning and peer-to-peer learning that it's truly coming from them, so that we can learn from them and we are the ones in service to them, not they to us.
You bring up a very good point, Dr. Wesley. I know it's something that when I started this work with Kidango, that I wanted to achieve as well, because it's easy to present something to families and ask them to, for buy-in. But there is a difference when you are able to really present information to families and create questions that are open-ended and provide time for reflection, and really empower families to know that their thoughts and their experiences matter. Because what I found is that a lot of families, the feedback that they've provided to us is that they didn't really know that they can share their ideas, right? And, I think one of the things that's really important is that empowerment so that families can share. And it's also not just that empowerment so they can share, but also providing them the skills and the tools to be able to know and understand the issues. So providing data around, here's what's happening in your community schools. You see there, these are, California's dashboard for K-12 is something I love to use a lot and present to families. And I say, these are the schools that your child may end up going to. What on here concerns you? And we have families who are concerned about absenteeism. And then, you're able to craft questions based on what the patterns of things that families are bringing up, like what matters to them. And I think that's really important, to really have those open-ended questions where it's not just, here's what we want to happen. So do you agree with us?
Yeah, Luanda, I want to, oh, sorry. Did I cut someone off? I just wanted to say, I want to thank you because that is such a great point. And you actually gave me, we are currently in the process of planning a lobby day in Washington, DC. And there will be a planning meeting for that. And that is such a good point that when I plan my talking points, which should not only be our talking points for appropriations, which I have, but should really be asking, is there anything else that California wants to add to this? Because it's a national lobby day, but we're a big state. So that is an amazing and excellent point. I want to just share a quick anecdote about the power of parent voice and how it really can change policy. This actually comes out of Washington Headstart Association, which has a very robust parent engagement and parent advocacy program. And I had a conversation with their director because that is something at the state level that we would like to see grow and improve. And he shared that Headstart has recently allowed families who are on SNAP, on food stamps, to be categorically eligible for Head Start, even if they're above the federal poverty level. This is a really big deal for us. The parent pointed out, so a parent in Washington state pointed out, what about people who are on state food stamp programs? the federal government restricts food assistance to those who are documented. Undocumented individuals are not eligible for federal SNAP benefits, but many states, including Washington State and California, use state funds to expand that to undocumented individuals. So the parent was like, so if you're on Washington SNAP, I don't know what they call their SNAP in California, it's CalFresh. If you're on Washington SNAP, the state SNAP, not the federal, what happens with us? And their director was like, that's a really good question. Wrote up to Office of Head Start, and Office of Head Start was like, that's a really good question. We never considered that. No one had thought of this until a parent brought it up. And then the Office of Head Start issued a clarification to all 50 states and Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia, stating that if there was a state-funded nutrition program, those individuals were also categorically eligible for Head Start. So that one parent actually affected a policy clarification that impacted the entire country. And that happened because someone asked her. So I think like it's such a great story of like, no one in the entire Office of Head Start, no one had thought about the state funded. That just wasn't even on their radar. So it is so important. So I want you to think that up, and you actually gave me an idea for my planning meeting for my lobby day. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. But you actually, as you were talking, now you gave me an idea, because I was just thinking, Eve and I float in different circles together. We think about those who are closest to the pain points have the greatest solutions, right?
Right.
But also the questions, they have the critical questions based in their lived experience. So you just raised that on a for me is they come up, they can have critical inquiry about how the system works, that we might have been a blind spot for us who are floating in this. And I can just imagine if I was a parent who formerly was on SNAP, was formerly on cash, like all the subsidies I had, housing, I would maybe have had this venue been asking different questions than those of us right now who are more seeped in this as career professionals.
Exactly. And I am a classic case of a policy wonk who makes the rules for things that I've never done before. Like that is who I am. So it is always good for me to remember, like, I have not been involved with Head Start. I am not an early learning teacher. I have never been an early learning teacher. I have great respect for people who can be in a room of 3-year-olds all day long. Like that is not something that's not what I do. And so I don't think of things that way. And I think that's very, very common for the people who make these rules. And that's why it's so important to always be incorporating like the people who are closest to the pain point or closest to the ground, whatever you want to say it. Just the people who actually know, who are like, wait a second, but how does this work? And you're like, I never thought of that because that wasn't in the legal code that I was looking at.
Exactly. Thank you.
It's great examples of the whole purpose of this series for community voice. So what tools have been maybe the most helpful, the most useful, whether it's for elevating community voice or establishing the parent advisory groups, or supporting families in policy? What have been the most helpful tools that maybe you have developed or have utilized, maybe borrowed from another organization?
I'll share some tools that we've used to help elevate parent stories, because oftentimes, which is also a little bit of a challenge, is that sometimes we have families who are afraid to share their stories, and they'd rather share their stories anonymously. And so thinking of the various ways that we can share parent stories, we've utilized a tool called Gather Voices, which allows you to automatically record your story, but in it, you can provide prompts to people and you can limit how long they record themselves for. And so that tool has actually, especially during the pandemic, because before the pandemic, I used to meet with families one-on-one, set up a video camera, set up lighting, and do my interview, and we enjoy ourselves that day, take them to lunch, all the good stuff, right? But Gather Voices has been a tool to really help us elevate parent voice, where I don't have to retell the parent story. You can hear the parent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we're also able to, for parents who want to share their story but not be seen, we've also been able to, very, very simple, if you have a regular iPhone, use your voice memo to record their story. And we've used that and shared that with elected officials, clips of what parents had to say. Those are some of the tools that we utilize. I will give a shout out to Child 360 and Region 9 Head Start, who did provide, a one-pager on telling your story or meeting with an elected official and having that pitch that you want to have. And so that's something that I've incorporated into our curriculum for advocacy. But the one pager is very helpful, and we use that with families. So they kind of have, okay, here's what I can go do and share.
But do you have both a link to the Gather Voices and the one-page strategy that you could drop in the link?
Yeah, hold on. Yes, I'll put them. Let me see.
Yeah, those sound like very effective tools. Any other tools that anyone uses, whether it be collecting family stories or curriculums or frameworks that you might use for elevating community voice?
I would like to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think it's not really relating to like a type of curriculum or framework, but it's more something that parents and anyone like caregivers, anyone in their families can join, are cafes. And I've found that having family cafes, parent cafes, it really brings the community together, just because everyone is around the same environment where maybe there are certain difficulties happening around the community, and they can all sort of relate and to one another, and different things come up from those cafes, whether it be childcare, help with education, mental health. So I think that is a very empowering way to get families to use their voice and get them to, or even just learn from them and learn how they need the support they need to really just live a happier life, healthier life as well, and get them to also be empowered and get the support that they need to overcome those difficulties.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. How do you engage people to participate and get them in the door, I guess, to come to the parent cafes?
So with parent cafes, I used to be in a family resource center, and as a community worker, we really try to gain the trust of families. Like all of us are just normal people. Anyone who comes through our doors, we help them to get the resources that they need. And while we're making that connection, that relationship, and building that relationship, we let them know of, oh, there are cafes where you can connect with people to that you can relate to based on what they're going through. And sometimes there are times where they might say no, they might be really excited for it, but it's a process just based on what they're all going through. Because I understand that some problems are a little bit bigger than others, and it is hard to use their voices at first, but as you build that relationship, they really gain that trust with you. I know, like, from one of my coworkers, they were really hesitant to join like different support programs and things like that. But over time you could see that they were working towards it, and they were able to see like the brighter side of things little by little. So I think it's just a work in progress, to be honest, and just really gaining that special trust with someone and building that relationship to help them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Jennifer. Anybody else want to share any successes and challenges they've had with community voice at their organization? Nope. Well, I guess the last question on here is how can CFRA support your efforts to elevate community voice? So something we've done is hosted these community voice webinars. Are there any additional resources or tools, information that you all feel would be beneficial for CFRA to support with?
I'm going to jump in, Victoria, and just go back. So I think I missed a question or something. So I was just going to share around like the tools and the challenges. Something that we found to be super helpful. Well, two things. One, it is always worth the effort, and it can be effort and capacity and cost, but it is definitely worth the effort to incorporate your non-English speaking families. So for example, for ours, we actually hired a simultaneous translator. One thing that I've done is I've actually demonstrated in rooms, like I've had a Spanish speaking participant tell their story and then I'll translate for them. I am not a native Spanish speaker. It is not a perfect translation, but just to tell, like, this is how you can do this. This is how you can make sure that they can also participate in the meeting. I'm very fully aware of it takes time, it takes effort, it is more challenging. You sometimes have to come up with different rooms, and particularly if you're dealing with more than just English and Spanish, if you have multiple, which currently is what we have been offering. But I can't emphasize enough how much it is worth the effort to make those translations available, to make those services or those opportunities available, including in visits with legislators, even if that means you have to send in a bilingual person to translate. The other thing that I have found to be helpful, just kind of recognizing that for many people, this is very, very intimidating. And I think sometimes for people like me, that's easy to forget because I interact with legislators it's just not a intimidating thing to me anymore. And I think for many people in my position, it's not, you're just like, oh, they're just people. Actually, I have personal opinions on all of them. But for many people who we're working with, this is very intimidating, and really calling that out and kind of cheerleading people about the value of the story and the value of their life. And I think even if you know you have certain stories in the room, kind of calling it out and being like, even that, like, you know, if you've been involved with the child welfare system, if you've been involved with the justice system, if you've been in a domestic violence, or like even these things that people can think of are like, oh, well, I can't talk about that, and be like, yes, you can. Even that really uncomfortable thing, that is part of your story, and just really calling that out to people, because I think people think like, oh, she says like it doesn't have to be bright and shiny, but I can't talk about that. And just being like, yes, you can, and trying to really, to the best extent, model that, or at least just call it out, so that people really do feel, those people who might have in some ways the most compelling and the most like the stories that need to be heard the most, are the least likely to talk, and making sure that they feel comfortable doing that, even if they have an accent, even if they have a speech impediment, even if they have a really challenging story, like really putting in that effort. That I think is the most important, because otherwise you do tend to get the easiest, shiniest stories, and it creates a false impression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Anna. That's definitely an important perspective to consider. I think, always wanting to highlight the effectiveness of FRC. So I think many times we try to find success stories that fit a specific purpose, but wanting to elevate community voice, regardless of what the purpose may be, but sharing their stories and their needs is definitely something that we need to consider. Yeah. Any other comments or responses to any of these questions that anyone would like to share before we wrap up our meeting today?
No, I know my Eva's searching for that one pager, but that would be really, really helpful.
Yes, I'm looking for it and I can't find it. So I'll have to either email you when I get a chance, and I can email it to you, Victoria and Sadie, once I find it, so you can share with everyone else too.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. We can definitely send that out in some of our upcoming advocacy materials. Yeah. Okay. Well, the last thing is a couple of reminders. Our regional policy forums are coming up. So if you haven't registered yet, please do. We sent out calendar invites as well with the registration link on there. And our first one will be next Thursday. So exciting that these are coming up. And I think this was a great kind of kickoff webinar for those regional policy forums that we have. And that's it. We do have an evaluation. Sadie, if you could pop that in the chat, that would be great. Oh, I think you already did it. Great. And then Sadie also put in our web page for the state budget proposal advocacy resources. So we have some resources on there. We'll be continuing to add more on there as time progresses and we develop more based on the proposal. But again, we'll also post all of these webinars on our website as well. So thank you all so much for participating. Thank you to Maeva and Anna for your presentation and your time. We really appreciate it. And I think that's a wrap, unless anyone has any additional questions. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. I'm sure I will see you all soon in the next meeting.
Yeah. And Victoria, can you drop that in the box again in the chat, because I somehow disconnected myself.
Oh, yes. Okay. Let's see. So
The evaluation, yeah.
yeah. Oop. See, so okay. So this is the evaluation.
Okay.
And yeah, and then our
Thank
web
you.
page with the resources. Yep.
Okay, you guys take care. Great job. Appreciate you.
Thanks. All right. Bye.